Welcome back to the Sports News Analysis YouTube page. Continuing my Week 14 predictions here with the game between the Jets and the Jaguars down in Jacksonville. I'll be previewing all Week 14 games, so be sure to check out my other previews. I preview them game by game. The last video of the week I'll consolidate all the picks onto one video, so if you're here for the picks, you might want to watch out for that video as well. The Jets coming off a win last week versus the Cardinals, and I say win, but for any of you who had the misfortune of having to sit through that game like I did, it was an awful game. It was one of the worst NFL games you'll ever see, and look, it was deplorable. Between the play of Sanchez, who as we know now has been highly publicized, that was pulled in favor of Greg McElroy, and he wasn't even the worst quarterback in that game. Ryan Lindley, I'm sure he's a nice guy, but that Ryan Lindley that plays for the Cardinals, it has to be the worst quarterback, not only in the NFL this season, but probably in the NFL at least in the last decade, and I might be being kind there. He's absolutely awful. The Jets were able to capitalize on that. The defense played rather well. I think the Cardinals had 130 combined yards, and 40 of them were on a fake punt. So the Jets got lucky last week. They had their really bad game by their quarterback, but they pulled out a win. I'm actually in favor of the Jets starting Sanchez. It's more because if you look at the writing on the wall, if you look at it, they owe Sanchez $8 million guaranteed next year. If you look at it from that perspective, and from the perspective that they gave him that premature extension before the season, which is where the problem really lies here, they have to give him another shot. I think it's easier to start him, and if he plays bad again, you pull him and you put McElroy in, as you did last week. No harm, no foul. If you now sit Sanchez and start McElroy, well, now you've just caused a firestorm that with the New York media is going to be tough for everyone to deal with. Not just Rex, not just the quarterbacks, all the players in press conferences throughout the week, everyone. So I think it was the easy decision, in my opinion, to start Sanchez, and we'll see where it goes from here. First time Sanchez's job has been challenged. First time he's been held to task for not playing well. And we'll see how he comes out and plays this week at Jacksonville. Some things to watch for the Jets is their running game. Their running game under the radar has been getting increasingly better as the weeks have gone on. We frequent the site Pro Football Focus, and you just see the grades for their offensive line getting more consistent and getting better every week. You'll see a lot of Sean Green this week, as usual, and more every week we're seeing backup running back Bilal Powell get into the mix. And I like what I've seen from him. He comes in, gives that burst of energy that in a lot of cases this year the Jets have sorely needed due to their lackluster offense. Make no mistake about it, the Jets have no weapons outside. And Dustin Keller's been banged up all year. So if the Jets can't establish a running game against the team, they have a very tough time scoring points. You end up with Sanchez not being able to use the play action to his advantage. And quite frankly, you get usually miserable Jet performances when that happens. So we'll look for the Jets to establish the run early and often with Green and Powell, which they should be able to do against the Jaguars, which should open it up for some play action. As far as the Jets defense goes, their pass defense has been very good this year, as was expected, but I think it's a little bit of a surprise how good it's been, being that obviously they lost Darrelle Revis early in the season for the entire year. Their rush defense, though, look, if you're a physical, mauling kind of running team, you can definitely do damage against the Jets. And or if you have small running backs who can get out in patterns or a good pass-catching tight end. The Jets' rushing defense and linebackers in particular can be exposed because they're not the most fleet of foot. Good news for the Jets this week is the Jaguars have none of the above. Their running back core is depleted, which we'll get into in a second. And, their tight ends are adequate, but again, nowhere near the level of the players the Jets usually have problems with. As far as the Jaguars go, they're coming off a 34-18 loss to the Bills last week. Look, if you're letting up 34 points to the Bills and you can only score 18 points against them, that kind of lets you know where your season is. The Jaguars come in with a record of 2-10. They are in some heavy competition for that number one draft pick with the Chiefs and the Raiders as we head down the last 4 weeks of the season here. Blaine Gabbert's still injured, so Chad Henne will get to start again for the Jaguars. One thing to look into is that Chad Henne, while he was with the Dolphins, did have some success against the Jets in the rivalry games that those two teams have played. So that's something worth looking into. I don't think it's enough to really give the Jaguars an advantage. I mean, Henne's only completing 52% of his passes after coming off of a stellar start in the first game he started for the Jags. He's definitely cooled down considerably since then. The Jaguars' defense, again, a particular not good matchup against the Jets because they're terrible against the run. The Jaguars' defense yields around 160 yards a game on the ground. And if the Jets never have to abandon the run, we have the feeling they won't. And they'll stick with it as long as it works. The Jaguars, the running back situation also is a mess. Maurice Jones-Drew is questionable for this game. He's been out since week 7. Rashad Jennings hurt last week. So we don't think they'll have any running backs to really expose that suspect Jets rush defense. And because of all this, we like the Jets minus 2.5 on the road against the Jaguars. You know, I had to think long and hard about this. To take a team like the Jets, a team that's unpredictable, on the road as a favorite is tough to do. But sometimes it comes down to, with a less than 3-point spread, who do I think the better team is? And, you know, as far as the rosters go, and as far as what I've seen this season from both of these teams, there's no doubt the Jets are the better team. So I'll take the Jets minus 2.5 on the road in Jacksonville. And I'm going to be continuing sort of pumping out these Week 14 previews. So be sure to take a look out for any game you're looking for. And thank you. And at S News Analysis if you're on Twitter. Thank you.